It's our pleasure to talk this afternoon with Congressman Ron Paul, a former candidate for the Republican nomination for president, longtime Texas congressman, libertarian, and an idol of an awful lot of young Americans these days, which must be a strange thing, Congressman, you know, judging in past years when nobody much was paying attention to you.
Yeah, I think I can understand it because I think young people do respond to a principled message about personal liberty. But I'm a little bit surprised after many years of talking about the same thing all over and over again to get this as much attention. But I think the biggest surprise came with the young people's interest in monetary policy. Mm-hmm. But it sort of coincided, with our crisis. And then when I brought their attention to the fact that the Fed is very much involved in the business cycle, they just seem to grasp that very quickly. The older generation, the people who have an interest in the status quo of the current system, they don't want us to talk about it. But it was during that campaign on college campuses that I recognized that a lot of young people wanted to hear more about the monetary issue.
The message is getting through that they're the ones going to be saddled with the bill for the feckless and irresponsible behavior of their preceding generations.
Oh, I think that's a big thing. They've talked about that a whole lot, but I think it's just overwhelming now. The entitlement system is just out of control. The debt is out of control. The foreign indebtedness is out of control. And then they see these figures about how the money supply can be doubled in 1 year, and a national, a deficit in 1 year can be $1 to $2 trillion. I mean, that catches your attention. You don't have to be Einstein or have a PhD to recognize that there's a limit to this. And I think this is what a lot of people are recognizing.
Congressman Paul will present the case against the Fed at Loyola University here in Baltimore Wednesday at 7 p.m. in McGuire Hall on the university's North Charles Street campus, and there'll be a book signing and reception after that. The thing that strikes me these days, Congressman Paul, I've been a believer in what you've been saying for a long, long time. I'm convinced on almost everything that you say. Coincidentally, shall we say? But it's just the problem now has escalated and is so far out of control that personally I'm wondering how in the world they can possibly fix it, even should they want to.
Yeah, no, it'd be difficult because if we'd have had charge of dealing with the crisis, the economic crisis, it would have been tough because we would want to step back and allow liquidation of debt, allow people to go bankrupt, prices go down sharply, but get the difficult problems behind us. Then after a year, we can all go back to work. And I believe that strongly, but there would have been some pain from this, but the pain wouldn't have been because we're bringing about correct policies, but because we're trying to correct the past ones. But politically, though, you do get blamed for it. But the answer I give a lot of times to this is, how could you possibly bring on a tough time like this on purpose? Mm-hmm. Well, if we do nothing, the times are going to be much tougher. If we go into a period of time where people don't want our dollars, which is possible, we just can't print dollars forever, that will be a lot bigger crisis. But, it's terrible to have to pick between two types of crises, one that you bring on to allow the correction, or you wait until the inevitable. I think it's like drug addiction. It's much easier to take another fix or drink some more alcohol. But the patient eventually dies if you do that. They feel better for a while. In our economy right now, they're claiming we're feeling better, but I'm not sure how many American citizens who are out of work are feeling any better. But, some of the statistics are improving. But that came from just, printing money and pretending these statistics really mean something.
There are so many things to discuss and so little time to do it. But I did want to ask you. I saw your speech on the floor of the House of Representatives about the Pentagon bill and the amount of money. The supplemental bill is now once again going to fund the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you've been forthright in your opposition to all this. And you say we should change our foreign policy to one of non-intervention, and this gets people spooked. But how can the empire continue this hugely expensive Eurasian wars with the financial situation that we have?
Yeah, and it amazes me that there's no intention to cut back. When they see an opportunity, they grab hold of it. Take, for instance, Haiti. I can't believe there's one American doesn't express some sympathy for the people of Haiti. They're real suffering. And we're literally raising hundreds of millions, if not, it could be $1 billion that the American people give graciously to the people of Haiti. But the other day I voted against the bill precisely because our government has made commitment. Obama went down there and committed $100 million. Where does he have this authority to commit $100 million? But the Congress comes along and says, that's okay. Not only that, is we want the troops in there. We want to rebuild Haiti. All these wonderful things. But where are they going to get the money? It would be so much better if they could import free market ideas and sound money. That would help more, and let investors come in and let charity help them out. But this whole idea that this money is endless and that we're going to be able to take on another project. And in the Middle East, they continue to take them on. I mean, we're involved now in dropping bombs in Pakistan as well as Yemen, and we're threatening the Iranians. We're in Iraq, and there was violence still there going on today, and Afghanistan is in turmoil. So my guess is they're not going to listen to us who would have a different foreign policy, but it's going to end just like it ended for the Soviets. The Soviets had to break up their system because they no longer could afford it. They became paper tigers.
You've been quite alarmed lately, or sounding the alarm lately, about possible social unrest in the United States and what form it might take, and you are hoping that it can be averted. I want to get your thoughts on that when we continue in just a moment, okay?
Okay.
Congressman Ron Paul of Texas, 14th Congressional District in Texas, is going to be in Baltimore at Loyola University Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. at McGuire Hall to talk about the case against the Fed. We're back with Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, it was like no one saw it coming. I'm talking about the Scott Brown win over Martha Coakley for the Kennedy U.S. Senate seat in Massachusetts. I'm sorry, the people's seat. This had to be something that delighted Paulites.
Yeah, I think so, with some reservations. The delight is the establishment, which is a long-time establishment in Massachusetts, was challenged and was beaten. So that is a good sign. If you come down to the line of looking at every single thing, there'll be people who say, oh, no, he doesn't support this, he doesn't support that.
But that's not the point.
The power struggle is real. The parties are pretty similar, but the power struggle is real. So if you can shift power away from as much power as the Democrats had, both in the Congress as well as the presidency, this is really good news, and everybody should welcome that.
But politicians, of course, also, at least we'd like to think, they know which way the wind is blowing. Yeah. And if you have a mass movement of people who are dissatisfied with the status quo, there will be ambitious people who will get out there and lead. They'll lead them. I mean, it could be the Republican Party could have a change of character, like when the Rockefeller Republicans were driven out by the Goldwater Republicans.
And, there is a degree. The Tea Party movement started before the Republicans got interested. And yet then the average Republican got interested, and he has a choice of just latching on and being challenged by the true believers or convert a little bit. I even know that some of the people who have been interviewing me over the last couple of years, they used to be more antagonistic. It's almost like, there's a lot of people who want to think this way, and they're not as antagonistic. So you're right. Maybe through osmosis and just association, we will have an influence on the Republican Party, even though it might not be exactly what we want. And I think that's all good, as long as we move away. Anything we can do to move away from big government, to me, that is a good sign.
There are problems with Ben Bernanke's confirmation for another term as head of the Fed. You'd like to end the Fed, but let's talk about Bernanke. The Democrats say they have the votes to reconfirm him. Is that your understanding?
Probably, but I don't have any more information than you have in what's in the news. I just spotted a few minutes ago that McCain would be voting against him. I think that's sort of interesting.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
And he's on audit the bill. So, but Arizona is one of our strongest states for libertarian ideas. So, he's
running for re-election.
Yeah, so he has to come our way a little bit too, and something he would never admit, but. He does, respond to that, and will be voting against him. Obviously, he does not think that's a political liability to vote against Bernanke. So I think it's good.
And your Democratic colleagues in the House of Representatives, a lot of them are in anguish now because they were beaten into submission by Pelosi and the leadership in the White House into going along with the health care thing. And now they have to go answer the voters in November. And from what I've been reading, you know better than I, but a lot of them are pretty upset about the whole thing.
Yeah, it's reflected in how many people aren't running, how many people are thought about, and one has already switched. And the other ones who are just flat-out angry and pushing Pelosi away from it. And I think Pelosi has responded. Some of her comments indicate that, well, maybe we better take another look at it. Oh, we don't have the votes now to pass the Senate version. And, how often does a Congress have that much, plurality in the vote? And they have a large plurality of vote, a majority vote, and yet they don't have the votes to pass anything now. So I think that election really helped serve all our interests.
Yeah. Bernanke, head of the Fed, Greenspan before that for 18 years. You say End the Fed. That's your latest book. It's out now. What is the argument you make in synopsis to end the Fed?
Well, I have 4 points at the end on why we should end the Fed. The first should have been enough, but it wasn't, and that was there's no authority in the Constitution to have a central bank, but that was sort of violated early on. The second one is just a moral issue of money. Why should anybody be able to counterfeit money? The founding fathers wanted no counterfeiting. They wanted no inflation, and that's why they made gold and silver legal tender. And they said it was a moral issue as much as anything, because you steal value when you dilute or steal value from your currency. The other issue is economic. The Federal Reserve is the culprit that creates the business cycle, the inflation, and then the correction. So we just should not and cannot ignore this fact.
What would happen without it?
Well, we had quite a few years without it. It depends on what we allow to happen. If we allowed the Constitution to exist, they would pass my bill that I just introduced to allow gold and silver to circulate as legal tender. And I don't even take the radical position of saying, oh, if I had my say, I'd close the Fed down tomorrow. That would not be helpful at this moment. But I would put legal competition so that if you were getting a little bit worried about Federal Reserve notes, you could do all your business in a gold currency, and it would mean there could be a gradual transition over into a sound currency.
The financial sector over the last couple of decades grew to a gargantuan portion of American business, and of course that's not sustainable. I mean, obviously, and it wasn't sustained. It's fallen apart. But we have this crony capitalism that you're always talking about. We have the too big to fail banks, not just here, but elsewhere in the world. The 25 largest banks are basically controlled by the governments, and 5 of them are here in the United States, as I understand it. Is it, in your view, true, as Simon Johnson, the economist, put it, that a financial oligarchy has purchased our government?
Well, I think so. They're in bed with the government. Of course, there are other industries in bed with the government, too, when you look at the military-industrial complex. But the banking industry, it's a cartel. Especially the big banks benefit tremendously, whether it's a boom cycle or the bust cycle. They're the ones who get bailed out. They can borrow money at 0.5% and loan it out at 6%, and all of a sudden they're making huge profits again. They're paying all the money back. Everybody's happy, but who owns the bad debt that they used to own? We do.
Yeah.
That is the immorality of the system. It's the way of dumping on the middle class. And there's a saying in free market economics that if you have a currency destruction, it wipes out the middle class. And I think that's what we're seeing in the past 10 years.
If you see that, though, then you have social upheaval of a tremendous nature.
Right. No, that has been a big concern of mine, and we should try to avert it. But if it comes, if we have the right answers, let's just hope that we can influence other people to say that it's better to follow up, improve on, and advance the ideas that the founders held, and move forward in a civilized society rather than going backwards. I look at freedom as a very new idea, just a couple hundred years old, where it's really been practiced. And now we've drifted away. We're going the wrong direction. So an upheaval, if we do our work, maybe we can influence people to say, hey, maybe freedom is the way to go. Why should we go back to dictatorship? They've been around for 5,000 years. We don't need kings and tyrants to tell us what to do.
But they're the ones with the guns.
Yeah. Well, there's a few guns in America.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
so there's still a chance for a little bit of resistance.
Well, I'm speaking personally. I've admired you for many years because you've seemed to me to be a man who stands up and speaks truths that the guardians of correct opinion don't allow usually to be sounded. So, congratulations to you. In a sense, your time has come, in that so many people are now paying attention to what you're saying. And so that's a wonderful service to the Republic, I do believe.
Well, I appreciate that very much. There were a lot of others who worked at it as well and still do, so I just sort of blend in with them.
Well, thank you, sir. Wednesday night, you speak at Loyola University at McGuire Hall on the University's North Charles Street campus. The time is 7 p.m., and you will present the case against the Fed.
Right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.